Okay. All right. Welcome to the September 14, 2021 special meeting of the Human Services Advisory Board. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. Thank you for attending. And staff, the recording is on, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I will now call roll for the record of board members' attendance. Joanne is here. Mary Ailes. Monica Gonzalez. Alfreda Lee.
Here.
Eleanor O'Shan.
Here.
And Melina.
Here.
Gloria Quinn. And Megan Campbell, who is our non-voting.
Okay, and I need to let you know that Megan's trying to get in. Okay, here she is. So I'm gonna try to move her. Oh, Monica is also here.
Okay.
I just need to promote them to panelists. So they have showed up. 1 second. Like they showed up in a different area. So we just need to move them over. And there's Megan and then Monica. Okay, and Monica, since it's a public meeting, please go ahead and turn on your camera when you can. There you are. Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry, please continue.
Okay, with 7 out of 7 voting members in attendance, we have a quorum. Each speaker will be provided up to 3 minutes to speak. Staff is anyone present in person, online, or on the phone to speak during the citizen comment period.
Okay, I have no one online or on the phone. Diego, do we have anyone in person?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We will now consider approval of motion of last week's meeting minutes. And do I hear a motion?
I'm muted. I'm sorry, we don't actually have that on the agenda this evening.
Okay.
So yeah, so we are running slow on getting y'all the minutes, but we will try to get that done this week for all the meetings that we've had. And then going forward, you should have them every week.
Okay. We will now receive a 5-minute presentation by the applicant agencies for each program that was listed on this evening's agenda. Each presentation will be followed by a 5-minute question and answer session between board members and agencies regarding the program or application. Members of the public are welcome to listen to the presentation, but will not take part in the discussion or the question and answer session. Time limits will be strictly enforced on both the presentation and the question and answer session. Since I'm a voting member of the board, so that I can devote my attention to the presentation and discussion, staff will introduce the presenters and track the time. Board members, since this is a virtual meeting, please raise your hand using the meeting controls, and staff will call on you in order as quickly as possible.
Sorry. Okay, the first agency presenting this evening is San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District School Age Parenting Program. Follow-up and Recovery is the name of their proposed program, and Jennifer Vogel is here to present. And go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you, members of the Health and Human Service Committee. We have been a program that has done extensive work with teens as they either drop out or come to a follow-up position where they were graduating. We work with the teens to recover them back to a school setting, whether it's San Marcos School District or another alternative high school program. That's the gist of what our goal is to do, but we also work really hard in transitioning and helping them build supports. What's unique to us this year really has unfolded over the last 18 months, and that is this is a high-risk population of families, and the whole family unit has really suffered greatly. While there have been some stimulus and there have been some middle-class abilities to navigate it, those in the extreme poverty range really suffer greatly. There are food instabilities, there is housing instabilities, and certainly people have, this is a population that is working in industries that are off the market basically, and they really have suffered from their family's loss of income. So what we really also have seen, and we've been facing really strongly for the last 4 to 5 months hard, and that is the social emotional supports these families are really needing to navigate. There's really true fear about the COVID, even the vaccine, and trusting of the government and what their processes are. So we spend a great deal of time really helping them understand that. And while in the past we worked on citizenship issues, those kind of things are kind of further down the importance level. This is really about survival of a really at-risk population who can become some great leaders in our community. We've seen nurses and doctors that have risen out of our teen parenting program. We have reduced our repeat pregnancy rate over the years from down to 1%. It was up to 65%. And now with COVID, you know, our kids are not even showing back up to school. They are not showing back up into the workforce. They are just really desperate. They don't have transportation. So we're helping provide, we are doing groups, we're doing outside groups, we do nighttime groups, we're doing parenting classes for our follow-up students. We're also working with them with interns to really be able to navigate, you know, with some support, how to access resources. It's very challenging, and these are, you know, they don't have, you know, working electricity or phones often. And so those can be real challenges, and our teens need that kind of support to either get back to the school setting, or if they had graduated, you know, in May or last May, they really are still needing, you know, that transition into becoming the workforce, or even a secondary student in a trade school or a public education school. We promote public education, secondary and public trade schools. We do not support for-profit organizations for our students. Do y'all have any questions?
Okay, well, we can go ahead and start the 5-minute time limit.
Okay. Were y'all able to hear me?
That you serve about 113 clients per year.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
But only 111 are in San Marcos. So where are the other 2 clients?
This past year, they were in the Guadalupe County area. They were former students, and they live in our school district area within the Guadalupe County boundaries.
Okay, thank you.
You said that sometimes they have problems like with their phones not being on, or is that their electricity being disconnected? What type of help do you, what type of assistance do you provide for that? Do you outsource that to like United Way or somebody that will help them, or are you helping with that?
We don't have much of the resources, but we have been around and partners with communities for a long time. And so we have partnerships that can help them even with legal aid issues that are non-criminal related. But within the case of the phones, usually this is a population that has long been, they don't have one phone per person. They have one phone for 6 to 10 adults sharing that phone. And what happens is it becomes, you know, it's kind of like dental supplies. It's a luxury. So it goes first. Before your electricity is cut off, your phone goes first. And so we work to try to get them some safety phones that, especially if there's some domestic violence going on or possible child abuse issues, that they have a lifeline to be able to contact 911 or other emergency support services.
With the pregnancy rate, you said that you guys have been able to reduce the repeat pregnancy rate. It's wonderful. I commend you guys on that work. Have you seen an increased need though? So first time, I guess, clients needing your services?
Right now, our numbers have been a little bit slow in coming back, but when people are coming back right now, because they haven't been able to access medical care, they are really medically fragile. We have lots of high-risk pregnancies going on right now. They just have not had that prenatal care that's so essential, especially in this population. So really hooking them up to even like March of Dimes and Any Baby Can, who can give them some prenatal or right at birth care that is really instrumental in helping the, stabilizing that newborn's health. But we have seen indications that we think our repeat pregnancy rate is going to increase slightly. But we are very proactive on helping them identify when they come into our program what kind of method of contraception they would like to use so that they can just sustain and try to get a little bit better, foothold in their adulthood to be a better parent. And so hopefully we'll still continue to be promoting that. That's very intensive work. That takes really one-on-one conversations. You can't have groups about that kind of stuff. It's personal choice and it's really private conversations, and lots of them.
Can I ask a question? I'm gonna ask a question. So as far as I saw you guys ask for $15,000. Out of that $15,000, you know about how much roughly would go to salaries? I see you guys want to maybe add some positions if you can't get interns.
We would do a little bit towards some of the salaries. We really work hard to get interns, and we are very successful. We usually get 2 to 4 interns a semester. And we also get mentors. Those are former teen parents that have moved on down the road a little bit and have become a little bit more adult successful. And those are the people we look to hire on a kind of a rotating basis. Once they get to a certain age, they kind of age out of being applicable to the population and hearing the messages, but they've got some great stories and working one-on-one with teens, and they really often can make a big difference. But they take coaching. We use the Attorney General's training for their mentor program for our training, and they get monthly meetings and monthly practice sessions.
Okay, and I'll have to cut in. So our time is up. Thank you so much. And then we will go on to our next speaker. So Jennifer, you are welcome to stay in the meeting. We will not be interacting with you again.
Okay,
But
I'll leave.
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Julie Haller. She is with the San Marcos Youth Services Bureau, and their program is the Teen Network, or Active Community Teens. And so Julie, you are welcome to begin. There she is. It looks like I'm gonna I don't know if I can unmute you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're in.
Okay. Hi, I appreciate y'all being here and volunteering your time for this. It's an important. Been here with the San Marcos Youth Service Bureau for about 16 years now. We have a free after school and summer program for our at-risk teens here in San Marcos. I appreciate everything that Jennifer has done for the kids that she's servicing. We try to incorporate volunteering in the community so the kids can have something to write down as far as a skill for their job applications, their school applications, things like that. We work on a lot on soft skills and life skills and things that the kids really need to work on, get jobs to, get on with their education and things like that. We utilize volunteers and interns, and have one part-time staff member. It's going to be so important this next year. This last year has been extremely difficult for my kids because of COVID. They've lost family members. They are more at risk than ever. And even our kids that are in the school district that haven't been at risk before are at risk now for dropping out of high school just because of COVID. The things, they've been isolated, they've lost family members, they've lost jobs, their income, things like that. So there tends to, I put a link in for an article that maybe you could look at. It talks about the increased risk that we're going to be facing this next year, and how our kids are going to need more assistance than ever. The teachers are going to have, in general, the same kinds of expectations that they've had in the past. The kids be more overwhelmed easily by their assignments and things like that, and potentially drop out of school. We are hoping to be able to, by perhaps adding a little bit more staff if possible, to go out and recruit these kids. We've been around since 1975, but we don't have the budget to advertise. As we're off campus. And so,
So Julie, let me let you know, you're sometimes freezing. So you might want to go back and just repeat that last sentence. And then Diego, I think we need to add just a little, like try to compensate for the freezing just a little bit, but I'll start interrupting you. I think we haven't lost content until this last time. So just give us that last sentence or two and start again. Thank you.
whatever that was, right?
Yeah, now that I've talked that.
Right. So anyway, we are located off campus. So we're at the Southside Community Center, and it's a little more difficult to get the kids here without some sort of transportation. But I've been told just this last year that perhaps there can be some bus transportation if there's a need for kids to go to an after-school program if they're going to be at home alone. At home alone is the most difficult time for kids, you know, with our latchkey kids, because they can get in trouble. They experiment with drugs and sex. They can be exposed to violence, become hurt, things like that. And so an after-school program is really, really quite important. So do you have many questions, any questions? We haven't been able to do too much volunteer work this year because of COVID, because typically we'll go in the nursing homes and things like that. So we've been spending some time outdoors and including some STEM in our summer program. We actually went camping with the assistance of one of the local programs through the university, through the P2P movement, through Access. So we took the kids camping for 10 days to try to expose, we went camping in Bastrop for 4 days to expose them to the outdoors, to hopefully give them some exposure to science outside and what they can do. We did some photographing as far as a scavenger hunt. We took some stethoscopes to go listen to some different kinds of plants. And
okay, so we will break that off, sorry. And we will start the question and answer period. And it does seem to be working well for y'all to just ask your questions without raising your hand and so forth. So I'd encourage you just to sort of bust in as you need to, but I'll try to make sure it's working for everyone.
You say that the kids volunteer places. I heard you say nursing homes. Could you give other examples of where they volunteer when they're able?
In the summertime, we're able to go to the animal shelter because our hours are different. In the summer, we have the kids from 12 to 5. So we're able to go do some things there. But we've been going to the nature center or the discovery center and helping them repot some plants and some trees and get ready for their upcoming sale. So like I said, it's been a little limited because of COVID. You know, I had set up some places like a pet store to just go help sweep and do those kinds of things. But so we're kind of limited, but still trying.
Thank you.
Yeah, the nursing homes won't let us in right now. And I do have 11-year-olds, so I don't want to put, you know, people at risk.
How many students do you currently have?
We just started our new year. This last year, we only had 14.
And Julie, how do the kids come to you? Is it a referral process?
We've been putting flyers out on the school campus. But yeah, I have kids who were kids I had when I first started. So it's a lot of word by mouth, it's flyers, it's information at the school, it's, when we go volunteer somewhere, that's always good publicity. And so we do everything but advertise in the paper, basically. We have a large fundraiser typically in the fall. And so there's a lot of promotion that goes on there. A lot of the small businesses will support our fundraiser. And so there's a lot of exposure in that area. Facebook. All the free stuff. We partner with a lot of agencies also, to have our program as far as Centacor, some of other agencies. So we try to promote that way also. They make referrals.
You partnered with P2P Access with Dr. Chate. Was this y'all's first year partnering with them? And how did that go?
No, we have started with Dr. Chate since the very beginning, when she started putting together the Access group. And so this is our 3rd year, however many years she's been doing it. We've been there since the very beginning.
And how is that going? Is that something that you're wanting to continue?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I am not a science person. I am more of an outdoor person. And so anything we can do to promote nature, to help the kids find different ways that they can experience science, but then also find a place where they can deal with the stress in their lives and incorporate good coping skills. And I mean, we watched stars and we, hunted for critters and all kinds of good things. We did a lot outside this year.
Okay.
Take them fishing, whatever, just to help them find something that they love to do and might continue to do.
The program income eligibility base? Do they have to prove income?
We almost all of our kids are living below the poverty line. We do have a couple that perhaps are not, but we don't really turn kids away because every kid pretty much is at risk. Doesn't really depend on their income. They all have problems. We have kids that have walked in and said, "Oh, I feel like I'm surrounded by death." Everybody's died.
Okay,
and-
we'll have to stop the question and answer period there.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Julie, for presenting your program.
Yeah.
And then, so what we'll do is ask you to mute. You're welcome to stay in the meeting if you want, but we won't be expecting to interact with you again. After this, it'll just be the board discussion.
Okay, thank you.
So
Appreciate y'all.
thank you. Okay, and our next speaker is Jessica Cruz. She is with the Hayes County Food Bank. They have 2 programs. And I'm sorry, Julie, will you also turn off your video? There you go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so Jessica Cruz, Hayes County Food Bank, they have 2 programs proposed. So they are going to have 5 minutes for one program. And Jessica, which program are you going to do first?
I would like to do our distribution program first.
Okay, so they're going to have 5 minutes for the distribution program. We're going to have 5 minutes Q&A for that program. Then we're going to have 5 minutes for the transitional unsheltered food bags program and 5 minutes Q&A for that program. So each program gets the same amount of time. And so with that, Jessica, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Well, as she said, I'm Jessica. I'm the programs manager at Hays County Food Bank. And I want to thank you all for listening to me rant about two of my favorite topics, food and food. We at the food bank obviously distribute out food. That's our main goal. That's our main purpose. And that's what I believe our biggest ask for is this year. Throughout COVID, obviously, we have seen an increase in the number of people that have come to us expecting help. We do our best to provide them with as much food as possible. This past week, or I guess this week in general, our distributions, we're distributing $68 worth of food at each of our distributions. They get breads, they get sweets, they get frozen meats, a good amount to get them through an entire week. They get dry goods, they get fresh produce. We work with 20 community partners in San Marcos, and together so far this year throughout August, we have distributed more than 400,000 pounds of food. Last year, throughout all of 2020, we distributed more than 1 million pounds of food, and we are on track to do that same here. So it unfortunately is not cheap to do the distributions. We have to transport the food. We have to store the food. We transport it to our distributions to where our clients are. We rely a lot on our community agencies to help us with that. So they're able to come and pick up, and we are able to reduce costs in that way. But the maintenance and the utilities for storing 1 million pounds of food throughout a year is quite expensive. Our vans and maintaining our vans and making sure that those are all up to date to be able to transport 1 million pounds of food is also really important. We have to buy the bags for the distributions. We have to purchase boxes and tables, and we have to really just kind of keep up with all of that stuff. COVID, of course, we had to increase the amount of sanitizing that we were doing around the food bank, and we had to make additional healthcare purchases. So obviously before we were buying gloves, but now we're also buying masks to make sure that all of our volunteers have masks. We've increased the use of our gloves at all of our distributions, and unfortunately those plastic items are not cheap either. Our primary, where most of our money does go, is to purchasing food. Our community donations last year was just over 150,000 pounds of food. But like I said, we distributed more than 1.1 million pounds of food. So we do have to purchase that. It is getting close to the holiday season. And of course, one of our biggest distributions of the year is our holiday meal box. And so that money also gets used to purchase that. We do the turkey boxes, so frozen turkey plus all of the sides, and distribute to more than 1,500 families. So it's quite a bit of work that we do. We do use volunteers to help reduce those costs, which is wonderful for us. I could look up the numbers. I think last year it was quite a bit of volunteers. I don't have them on hand. But we had to reduce everything again because of COVID, just to reduce the number of volunteers in our warehouse and to provide more additional staff support. That's pretty much all I have prepared for this. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone may have about our proposal.
Okay, and Diego, start the 5 minutes now. Thank you. Monica, you were muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you go. Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I see in the application, there was indication that 47% were San Marcos direct clients. Could you clarify who the other 53% are?
Yes, so that is just people who have claimed that San Marcos is their hometown. Because we serve Hays County and surrounding residents, they can come from anywhere in Hays County or surrounding counties. So that would include Kyle, Buda, Wimberley, Dripping Springs. We get people from Lockhart, Seguin, New Braunfels, Martindale. I mean, some of these places do are serviced by the San Marcos School District, but they aren't counted in those numbers either.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. I know you guys get donated food and you also purchase food. What would you say as far, I guess, what's the majority of, are you purchasing food more than it's getting donated, or you get, or is there, can you really tell a majority?
So we have the community donations, which I said was about 150,000. We have a wonderful partnership with Central Texas Food Bank, who is our regional partner through Feeding America, and we're able to purchase foods through them. Last year, I believe that we spent almost $60,000 on food. So it was quite a significant amount. That food is purchased through Central Texas Food Bank. However, we do also, through that partnership, receive food more or less free of charge. We have to, of course, pay for the transportation and storage of it, but we pick up from the local grocery stores and restaurants. We currently have, I believe, 15 partners, food rescue, we call them food rescue partners that we pick up from. In San Marcos, for example, we have 7 restaurants, and then both H-E-B's, Walmart, Target, and Sam's Club.
With the holidays upon us and COVID still riding our back, how are y'all preparing for the increase or request for more assistance during the holidays? Because the kids are out of school and so there's a need for more food to be at home. How are y'all preparing for that?
We do what we do every year. We see the cycles of people needing assistance. COVID has thrown some of that off. It's just generally increased everything. We do always receive more donations towards the end of the year, and that does help us. We also, in general, just try to purchase more stuff, order more stuff through our organizations with Central Texas Food Bank, to make sure that we have enough food. Eleanor and I try to order to make sure that we have enough. Like I said, this last Monday, we planned to serve about 60 clients. We ended up running out of food entirely. So that was a lesson learned. So we just know that with some of the moratoriums that are ending and some of the benefits that have run out that haven't been extended, that we are going to see more, we are going to need more assistance. We are going to have to start taking an extra van filled with more food to make sure that we're meeting that need, and just making sure that we're doing the best that we can. We do rely, like I said, a lot on our community partners to help us reach some of the places that we personally or we as a unit cannot go to because we're too big, but they're able to get into the smaller communities, such as the schools, for example.
30 seconds. That is time.
Okay, so then we'll go on to Jessica Cruz presenting the Transitional Unsheltered Food Bags Program.
Okay, great. So the second program is a fairly new program. So this one will be even shorter than the other one because it is a new program for us. In the past, we have provided foods to our partners as requested, our community partners as requested for people who are unhoused. However, this last year, there is a local homeless coalition that has recently started. So the Homeless Coalition of Hays County, the food bank was invited to be a part of the board. So I am a board member. And as the board member now, we have developed several relationships and really kind of codified our programming to make sure that we're able to meet this need. There are about 160 unhoused individuals living within San Marcos city limits as of the last count, which was early this year in 2021. They do expect an increase in the number of unhoused individuals in the next count, which should be again in January of 2022. And to that end, we have really, like I said, try to solidify some partnerships to be able to meet that growing need of food items. Because they are unhoused, we do need to make sure that the foods that we provide to these partners, the partners we currently have are El Buen Pastor, Southside, Home Center, and we're now starting a new relationship with Salvation Army to provide these food items. Now, like I said, they're unhoused, so they require very special foods, which happen, unfortunately, to be a lot more expensive than just the foods that we're able to pick up through our other relationships with Central Texas Food Bank. We actually have to purchase these from stores directly. These items include no to low cook food items, so things like, for example, for protein items, it would be beef jerky. It's canned like Vienna sausages and Spam, things that can last for a long time. Foil packages for tuna. We need to look for lightweight items. So we also try to provide dried fruit, trail mix, peanut butter crackers, cheese crackers. All these items do cost more money because they're individually wrapped and because they are easy open. Unfortunately, that ease of access does cost money. It translates to more dollars spent. We also have to bag these items to make sure that everyone is getting an equal amount and can get them through an entire week. So we do bag these items. And that bags, again, are not very cost effective for us, but that is the best option that we have. So we try to make sure that these 4 organizations have enough food. And again, this is a fairly new program for us that we've really kind of solidified. Before, we just kind of did like just a mix match of whatever was available, but we're really trying to meet this growing need and that we've seen at having been a part of the Homeless Coalition now for a while. And I'm good on that. So questions?
Okay, and we'll start the Q&A.
So are you taking these bags to these different organizations that you're partnering with? How are the homeless getting access to the bags?
So it does depend on the partner. All of our partners do pick up from us and then distribute it on their own. El Buen Pastor started off with having a hot meal service along with the bag pickup on Sundays after their church service, but they have now switched. They pre-bag the items and take them to Southside. They will resume doing the bag service in October when the weather is cooler. Southside, we provide some of their foods that they actually cook for their hot meal service in the evenings. And some breakfast items as well. We also provide them with unbagged, just loose of those same items so that any of their clients that receive services there can just, pick and choose what they would like. And that's what we offer for them. With Home Center, we provide 2 types of products. One is just our standard regular partner distribution. They pick up everything that a normal partner would, but the second part of it is for the unsheltered program. They have a group of volunteers that help bag the items they pick up from us. So they bag some of those items and then they actually go out to where people are staying in their homeless camps and distribute food to those people every Sunday. And they do, I believe, about 30 people. I think they had been doing a second distribution during the week, but found that it's easier for them to find their unhoused neighbors on Sundays. And so that's what they do. With Salvation Army, they have a couple of other programs that they're, I believe, restarting or resuming to help our unhoused community members. And for them, because they're unhoused clients go to them directly, they will have a small pantry area with the pre-packed bags that they'll be able to distribute.
So they're able to get a hot meal and then afterwards they have access to a brown bag or the bags that you have.
Yes, at El Buen Pastor, like I said, in October, they will begin that or resume that. Right now, they're not providing the hot meal service just because of COVID concerns, but they do plan on resuming it with more. And then Southside, obviously, they do the hot meal service and we do provide additional stuff. With them, we also provide things like muffins that are just easy for an unhoused individual to just take and go. Apples, oranges, bananas, things like that are fresh that they might not always have access to.
If I could make a comment, this is wonderful because I was a part of donating food, hot foods to feed year before COVID hit. And that was one of the problems, that after they would eat later on that night, I'm sure they would get hungry. They didn't have anything. So that y'all would provide a bag for them even after they had a hot meal. When they go to wherever they're going to be staying, they have that. And I think that also keeps them from begging a lot too late at night, because they have that bag of food with them to eat. So I like this program.
I agree with Joanne, because I know that with some of our homeless, they won't come in to Southside or some of the other centers who provide meals. And as this program grows, will you consider maybe targeting any special populations or dietary needs for folks that, require your assistance?
Yes, I mean, that's something that we've done in our regular distribution stuff. We do hope to eventually be able to meet that need for our unhoused neighbors and community members. I know, for example, I forgot, we do also do a similar program with the VFW. The veterans that they work with are able to request specific items. And so we are hopeful that in the future, we can work with our partners who are working directly with our unhoused neighbors to be able to look for things that they can use, that they have ease of access to, and that they're wanting or missing in their current diets. So yes, that is something that we look forward to doing in the future once we have more feedback from the clients that they're serving.
30 seconds.
Very good.
Some of the canned goods that are being donated, is that the Easy Pop Tops, since they don't have, so you're having to get special cans for them as well?
Yeah.
Easy open, okay.
Yes.
That is time.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jessica, and you've heard the spiel. You're welcome to stay, but we will now, sort of move on into the board discussion realm of the meeting. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Joanne, the chair. Joanne, I think you're speaking, but you're on mute.
Okay, let me start over. I'm sorry. We will now hold discussions among board members on programs, agencies, and application for the purpose of clarification, comparison, evaluation, and assessment. This discussion is public, however, it is only among board members. This time is meant to be a free flow of conversation but please make your comments succinct to allow time for all board members to share if they wish. This discussion will be facilitated by Carol Griffith, Housing and Community Development Manager. Carol, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. And Eleanor will need to speak first.
Okay, I'm going to abstain from the discussion tonight just because conflict of interest. I don't want anyone to feel influenced by me being here, but I am going to just turn my camera off, but I will still be here and I would answer questions, but we're not allowed to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and log off here. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. I also wanted to provide just a really quick clarification on Megan's role as the non-voting member. So I think I guess I should have done this before Eleanor went, but maybe she can still hear us. So because I think I slightly misrepresented it in the orientation. So I'm sorry about that. So I just want to make sure that y'all know in the bylaws, it talks about this non-voting member. And so it specifically says she's meant to be a resource. It specifically says when board members have questions, for example, about the social services industry or something, general about it, she's a resource. So definitely ask her. And that's talking about specifically really in the public meeting. So if we're sitting here having a discussion, please feel free to ask her a question if you have a question about the social services industry as a whole. In addition to that, in her resource role, I do believe it's appropriate, looking at the bylaws, that if she hears y'all discussing something and she feels like, well, I need to chime in just a little bit with some information about how that works in social service agencies or something like that, she's also welcome to chime in. Now, it is, I don't know, for me, maybe a little awkward that we have a non-voting member. Now I've clarified her role. We are going to stick with this role through this year. I will talk a little bit more on this section for future agenda items on how we can go about working on our bylaws and so forth. And so I'll talk a little bit more about this when we hit that agenda item. So does anyone have any questions about Megan's role as the non-voting member? Okay, so seeing none, then we'll keep going. So Eleanor will turn off her video, and then last week, and we will be talking, we'll discuss until about 8:25. So Diego is here to keep us on schedule. He will call the time. He'll give us 30-second warning and then the time. Last time I tried to present some questions and I felt like maybe that restricted the beginning of the conversation a little bit. So this time I want to make it just a little bit more open. So first of all, I wanted to start with, does anyone have any questions? And then we'll roll into just some very broad discussion. And so first of all, does anyone have any questions that came up for you tonight? And again, we can talk about any of the programs. We may specifically want to talk mostly about the ones that presented tonight, because part of the process here is to really kind of get them firmly in our head as we go through presentations for so many different organizations. So any questions?
I had a question, and I don't know if this is a good question for now, but I didn't see any recommendation letters for the San Marcos Youth Service Bureau at the end. I don't know if is my packet.
That's a great question. Okay, so we are, as staff, currently going through the check to make sure everything is complete. And so we have Lorena in the background in the past couple of days going through in detail, and then Lorena and Irma are contacting each agency to get additional documentation. And so I haven't seen the list. We're just still working through it. I would say in general, what we would, in my experience, look at is if they got a preponderance of it and they're missing something that's required, but it's one thing out of the list or whatever, generally we would just simply ask them to get that to us and provide it to you. And so we are working on doing that, and you should have everything for all the agencies over the next week or so. And so once we kind of get through this review period where we're checking all the applications, we'll try to give you a tally of here's what was missing, here's what's coming, so that you can kind of have that checklist of everything. It's a great question though, because we do want to make sure that everybody has really turned in an application that provides all the requirements. So if there's no other questions, I just wanted to sort of throw out sort of a broad question. So what are your initial reactions to the presentations this evening?
I think they filled in everything that wasn't, it wasn't like they were trying to repeat what was in their application. They were trying to offer us more of how their organization looks on an active basis. And so I think that each presenter did an awesome job with that. Youth Service Bureau did a lot better job presenting this year with more children this year than before with 14. But I like the fact that they spent that quality time with them, and then they outsourced for some of their time with P2P as well. We hadn't seen that before. Usually they try to keep everything in-house and they try to provide everything for them. And now I see them reaching out to other organizations for whatever the kids are needing. So I liked hearing that. It's a little bit more detailed than before. We usually have a whole bunch of questions when it comes to the San Marcos Youth Bureau, but I think this year they presented very well.
Great.
Also, the food bank offering the tough bag. I think that that's very well needed. Like I said, I volunteered before with Southside through Promised Land Church, and we took hot meals and everything over there, but then that kind of fizzled out. And so that they're bringing it back now, we're giving them a hot meal and then giving them bags afterwards. Like I said, I think that keeps them off the street from begging at night, which can be very dangerous for them and us. And so they have their food, insecurities met for that time. So I think that that was a really needed add-on to the food bank services that they already provide to the community.
Does anyone else have thoughts of what was particularly striking or memorable that will help you as you are comparing them to other organizations?
I really like that the San Marcos Bureau for the after-school activities. It involved the children volunteering in the community. So that is instilling at a young age, giving back to the community versus typical after-school programs where they basically babysit the children. It's like, here's some board games, entertain yourself. And sometimes kids are on tablets or their parents' phones that the parent had given to them so that they can use it after school. So I really like that they try to engage these young students into the community and are teaching them at a young age these kind of qualities that will make them good citizens in the future.
So Monica, we heard all the words, but your Wi-Fi connection or whatever seems slow. It seems like it's struggling a little bit. So I'm going to ask you, why don't you go ahead and turn off your video, even though it's a public meeting. I think we'll be able to hear you better because it will stop the strain on your system. And so if you want to go ahead and do that, we'll just, please participate just the same, but I think it might help you be able to speak. Okay, let's keep going. Anyone else with thoughts of what was particularly striking or memorable, like Monica was saying, that will help you remember these applications?
I'd like to point out that the school age parenting program was one of the very few agencies that asked for like the same amount consistently. I used your chart that you printed out. This was helpful because I don't know anything from previous years. So they asked for $15,000 every single year, and this year I've heard it's a lot more. There's a lot more funding available this year than like ever because of the COVID money. I don't know. So I see most other people are asking for, if not double what they usually ask for, a little bit more. They only ask for $15,000. So that makes me feel like they know what they need. That's what they need. This is what they ask for every year. They're going to use it for the same thing.
Yeah,
so great points. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
they
Alfreda had
sorry.
her hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to what Monica was saying about the Youth Service Bureau. I like that not only do they volunteer to help with the elderly, but also with animals. So it helps to teach them, compassion towards people and also towards animals. I thought that was pretty cool, and that kind of stood out to me.
I was gonna say, yeah, they do ask for $15,000 pretty much every year, but they seem to manage their money very well. They usually don't have this many kids. It varies. And so even with 15, I feel that they will still manage their money very well. They do know what they're doing. And most of their time is spent toward studying the kids' behavior so that they're offering the best type of services that they can.
So Mary, do you have any thoughts as well? I'm just gonna call you out because I've noticed everyone else has spoken, and I just want to be sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak.
No, I'm good. I definitely want to applaud Eleanor and her staff for the work they're doing there. That's a huge job. You know, people being hungry is something
Eleanor work at
that,
the food bank?
I'm sorry.
Does Eleanor work at the food bank? Where's Eleanor work at? Or what?
Oh, she does. Okay,
Yes.
yes. So Eleanor is the director of the food bank, and so that's why she recused herself. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't all
So
know each other.
just
Sorry.
them,
Yeah.
yeah. So just them being creative about how to get food out. It's not easy. I mean, you know, and partnering with the Salvation Army and Southside, you know, that's huge. Those are places that people who have needs frequent because they know that they provide other services, but then to be able to get food at the same time, I just applaud them for being creative. It's a very difficult time, and so everyone's trying to figure out how to continue to do what they do. And I know that their numbers are going to grow. And we don't want anybody to be hungry. So I just think that, you know, they're doing an excellent job. They are. And I think that bag program is just going to be the best thing that ever happened to Hays County and beyond. And I see other people probably trying to duplicate that. That's a wonderful program. It's a start to, I think, address some of the hunger that we don't know about out there.
So thank you. That was a lot to contribute. A lot of thoughts. I'll throw out another question, but don't let me dominate. So another question might be, how do you feel about the impact for the dollar? That's something that we are going to have to consider. Y'all are going to have to consider very carefully in this process because we have received so many applications, and we're going to have to really make some distinctions between the organizations. So for these, or, you know, or even others, how do you feel about the impact for the dollar?
I think for the food bank, I think they're right on. For the bag component, I think, like Mary was saying, that population is going to increase, and I think that their dollars will increase. For the other programs, I would really have to go back and study more of the application that they presented in order to make that decision.
So does anyone else have any comments that you just want to make, thoughts about the process or about these programs? It's really, the floor is open. We have time. We don't have to use all the time. I just want to make sure that if there's something, you know, on your mind, please feel free to share it.
Can I share a kind of a question thought that came to mind? It's not about any of the specific programs that have presented. I am thinking a lot, this is a big question and I don't know where it lands in our larger discussion about funding, but about half of the $1 million that we have is one-time funding. And I just, and surely the effects and impact of COVID aren't going anywhere. And so I'm just wondering how these organizations, every one of them that have applied, especially those that are applying for emergency funding, are thinking about that long-term plan, because the need isn't going anywhere, but the funds might. And so I'm just wondering how programs are thinking about that. Kind of, again, a broad question. And especially for those programs that provide emergency kind of things like a food bank and like some of the other folks. I know this really beautifully made spreadsheet has them categorized, which is so helpful. And I guess the food bank is actually in a different category necessarily than that emergency funding, but it's still such an immediate need. So just something that came to mind as I was thinking about these applicants or the money in general.
It really is true. About $500,000 out of the 1 million is one-time funding. We may in San Marcos have the luxury of having additional funding next year because we have another 9 million coming through the American Rescue Plan. And right now we have a city council that is very social services oriented. And so they are the ones who have really directed the funding, you know, to this committee to get out there into the community, but we really don't know. And so I will be sending around the structure, the sort of process for how we're going to talk through 36 applications with a limited amount of funding. And one of those questions that we'll be asking as we go through sort of rounds of elimination rounds or putting somebody on a final list and so forth is, what's the impact if we don't fund them? And what's the impact if we don't fund all of it? And I think that, Megan, you've brought up another consideration really is, you know, it's only going to be for this year, maybe, probably for some of this, for about half the funding. It's a very unusual situation that we have it. That's a great question to consider.
I think that most of the agencies that applied know that. And I think that they're going to be thankful for whatever they get, because a lot of them are going to be playing catch up. They're going to be using that money to spring them forward, you know, to get ahead of some expenses, to do additional things, provide additional services. But I really think that they're aware of that. I'm hoping that nobody just goes out there and starts creating new programs and doing all this kind of stuff, knowing that that money might not be there next year. But I'm excited about the fact that we have the money to give them. We haven't always had the money to give them. So this little extra, I just feel like they're going to take it and use it in the best way that they possibly can, knowing that it may not be there next year.
Megan, I'm glad you asked that, and I'm glad Mary responded like she did, because when I saw, 1.7, I'm like, oh my goodness, what are they going to do about next year? So, and then Mary, I think that you answered that. I think that they're going to use it to the best of their abilities, and I'm hoping that they don't think that this is going to be every year and come up with something. I'm really anxious to see how next year is going to be. But I'm glad that we have the 9 million that's coming, and I hope that they can add another million or something to our 400,000 that we usually give out every year. That would be great as well.
Sorry, go ahead, Alfredo.
We know that most of the agencies were impacted by COVID. And I guess it's something I could have asked last week, but were any of them impacted by the weather we had in February? The snowstorm that pretty much shut down the state.
Yeah, they shut down everything. We really don't.
Yeah, pretty much.
we didn't ask that, and I guess, that would have been a good question to ask them, because I don't think we have a real feel for how that impacted the individual agencies, actually.
I know it impacted the homeless community, so we should have asked that to the food bank. Yeah, because I know that they were scrambling around for monies trying to get them in motels. And they were also, the tough bags would have come in handy at that time, because they were looking for foods to give them that were easy to use. So hopefully we won't have that again, but I know that the homeless were really impacted by it.
When we get into later on the discussion about where that American Relief Fund money can get applied to programs, it might be valuable to think about that question in terms of those organizations that would qualify for those dollars.
Yeah, Megan, I agree with you on that.
I do not mean to rush anybody. Do we feel like we've sort of had a sufficient discussion for this evening? I'm looking around and I can't see Monica, but just let us know if you feel any different. And you're welcome to turn on your camera again, of course. I just didn't want it to prevent you from speaking well. There she is. Okay. So why don't we continue on then? So I will just turn the meeting back over to you, Joanne.
It's now time to receive updates from board members on activities since the last meeting. Does any board member have any update for the group? All right, we will move to the next item, which is future agenda items. Board members may provide requests for discussion items for a future agenda in accordance with the board approval of bylaws. No further discussion can be held related to topics proposed until they are posted on a future agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Does any board member want to request an item for a future agenda?
And I am not a board member. However, I did want to bring a topic to your attention, and so that you may want to discuss this, I would think, in January or February. So here's what we found out today. I talked to the city clerk. The bylaws that were passed in 2007 were really supposed to be evaluated and replaced in 2019. So the city council had requested that every board and commission in the city adopt sort of a more standardized template bylaws that really just specifically relates to how the meetings run and how the chair is chosen and just those routine things. And then the detail that's actually in our current bylaws about the non-voting member, the calendar of events for the year and so forth, that was supposed to go now into the ordinance that governs the board. So, we talked about there's the code of ordinances part that establishes the board. Well, that's where more of the detail about the composition of the board and the calendar and so forth should now go. So I asked, what does it take to make those changes? Actually, it takes 3 city council meetings. So it would take first the board discussion and decision making on what changes we want to see. I always say y'all want to see in the bylaws and also in the ordinance. And then as a board, you would vote on a recommendation. This recommendation goes to city council. I would present it as the staff liaison to city council, walk them through it in a presentation. It has to then go to the next meeting for a vote. And especially because we would be changing an ordinance, then it also has to go to a second reading. So there's our 3 council meetings. Knowing that, and knowing that we are in the middle of assessing all of these applications, now I believe is not a good time to go through that discussion. That's kind of a whole topic for a whole meeting. So I would like to suggest to y'all the idea of placing the bylaws revision and the ordinance revision on a meeting in either January or February, where the board gets together and we really walk through the details, and then y'all come up with a recommendation, and then we take it forward to council from there. And that would put you in a situation where then you've decided, okay, this is how we're going to run from now on. So we'll stick with how we have it for now. But that's a method for change if you would like to go ahead and do that. I would say that as a staff member, I can see that the bylaws are quite outdated. And we do also need to follow the city council's recommendation for getting those standardized with the other boards and commissions. And so there's my recommendation.
Okay, we will now move on to the agenda item called question and answer session with press and public. This is an opportunity that. Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is an opportunity for the press and public to ask questions related to items on this agenda. Staff is anyone present in person, online, or the phone to speak to this agenda at this time.
They are not. No one is present.
Okay. Thank you all for the participation. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
The motion was made by Eleanor. Do I hear a second?
I
I
second it.
second.
Okay, Mary seconded the motion. All in favor, please say aye. And all against, please say nay. Oh, please say aye, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye, okay. And all against, please say nay. I will now adjourn this meeting at 8:17 p.m.